Looking for a breakdown of why some are so confused about the future of Nancy and Jonathan?
It may have taken a tumultuous turn, but is the Steve and Dustin bromance back?
Red and Red Real Reviews tags along on a rescue mission with Season 5, Part 2 of Stranger Things on Netflix. I knew within the first 5 minutes I was going to hate it, but then it was so bad. Ugh.
Nobody wants this?
Like, literally nobody wants this.
Internet's going to get mad at me for this one. There's no fat elf.
Duty, which I can't say without laughing. Duty, like I'm English.
John B and Sarah are, I don't want to sound like a loser for saying this, but they're adorable. I'll
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Red and Red Real Reviews. So today we're discussing Stranger Things, and this is Season 5, Part 2. Before we get into it, let us know what you think of the podcast as a whole or a possible show we should have on our radar to cover by emailing us at redandredrealreviews@gmail.com and following us on Instagram, Red and Red Real Reviews. That's the letter N, real spelled with 2 E's. So because this is the final season of Stranger Things, we sort of have to operate a little bit differently than our usual answering of the question, should you watch it? So we kind of decided going forward for this show and for any other show we're covering in its final season, we have to kind of go back temporarily to our old model. If you're a Red and Red Real Reviews OG, you'll know what we're talking about. So we used to just discuss what happened in the show and how we felt about what happened. We used to give spoilers all the time. Like, our understanding was that you have already watched the show and you want to have someone to talk about it with you, basically. So we're going to kind of take it back to the old school and do that today, just because, for the first part of Stranger Things, it did make sense to because it had been a while to say, should you watch this last final season? But now that we're 2/3 into this season, we decided let's discuss it. So with that being said, do not listen any further if you have not seen Season 5, Part 2 of Stranger Things, because there will definitely be spoilers. So save yourself. Go and watch it and then come back to the conversation. But please, 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 please turn us off temporarily if you have not seen it. Okay.
If you went a whole holiday weekend without watching it, what are you doing with yourself?
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. You're under a rock with your family, probably. We can guess. So a lot happened in the second part, I thought. And maybe it's just because I'm in my luteal phase, and unless you're my husband or you're married, you probably don't know what that means. But I was really kind of taken with all of these heartfelt moments. Like, that was kind of the theme of this part, I felt like. So let's just get into talking about some of the highlights of these 3 episodes in Part 2.
By the way, I'm not going to look that up.
You might not want to if you're a single guy. You might be scared of what you find.
Yeah.
Let's start with the thing that I think there was some confusion around this, and I was temporarily confused, but then I listened to what they were saying and I was really looking at the captions, and then I understood it and I realized what was happening. So the situation with Jonathan and Nancy, when they're in that room and there's all that like stuff melting, I don't know what that substance was. And they basically think they're going to die. So they really start being truthful with each other and hashing out their relationship issues. And man, so there was a lot within that. So, basically they're going back and forth saying, Nancy's saying, I hate the Clash. And he's saying, he hates certain.
I hate reading your stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And so they go back and forth in kind of an exchange of being truthful with all the things that they were just keeping pleasant between them because they didn't want to hurt each other's feelings. And then so she actually said something that I was like, yes, I was right. She said that, he was kind of like, is there someone else ish?
Yeah.
And she says, like he kind of alludes to Steve, like, is this about Steve? And she's like, no. She's like, Steve and I are two different. And I'm like, that's exactly what I said for our part one episode. I said they are two different. And she gave the example that he wants six kids and she doesn't know what she wants out of life. And she said, that's great for him, but I have no idea what I want. Like, no, we're not meant, it's not Steve. It's not about Steve. And then people were a little bit confused because he takes out the ring. They say, I love you to each other. And then he says, basically he uses the word unpropose, so that's
Yeah.
what got it for me in the captions. I was like, okay, they're saying basically that they love each other but they recognize that they're not meant to be together. So this is basically just, I think it was a confusing scene for a lot of people. They're like, are they breaking up? But wait, they said I love you, so what does that mean? So the Duffer Brothers did come out in the past couple days and say that this was in fact a breakup. Like there is no mistaking it. Like that's what they
No.
intended. This is a breakup.
Why do they have to do that? Because that's honestly that's not what I got from that at all.
Was it the part that they said I love you that threw you off? Because I mean I think
Well,
that I haven't been in that situation, but I think there were people commenting that said that, well, haven't you ever been in a situation where like you love someone but like you just can't be together for whatever reason? So like that's like even though you love someone you have to break up.
Well, it's because the ring thing came first, the unproposal, whatever that means. Because I'm like racking my brain, like I don't remember him proposing in the past. What would he have to unpropose? And then he goes, will you unmarry me?" And then they go back and forth and for a second, and then they do the "I loved you" in past tense, "I love you" in present tense, and then she
Mm,
says, "Jonathan Byers, I love you." So it kind of made me think like they were at that point where they were going to break up and they were brought back together because they realized that they do in fact love each other and they do want to be together. So I don't know why the Duffer Brothers would say that, and I kind of wish I didn't know that now.
well, I think here's the thing is I think the reason that they said that was because people were getting confused to where they were thinking that like he literally did propose to her. Like they were very confused about it. Like they thought that they were still together and that's not the case. And uh it's been released already that there is going to be a spinoff and Nancy Wheeler is going to be the star of that spinoff. So
I heard
clearly
that.
they had to end it with her being single and like out on her own in order for this spinoff to work, I guess. So that's why
That's
a lot of
silly.
people, yeah, that's why a lot of people are saying that they had to do that. It was sort of a like I get how it was sort of sending mixed messages. Like I understand that that was confusing for some people. And it was confusing for me at first until I saw the unproposed in the captions. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not going as well as it sounds like it is.
See that? Yeah, but again, like that didn't throw me off because of the progression of the conversation. Like it kind of because it kind of like, oh, bad part, and then it came back around to good part, and then they kiss.
Yeah, so and they do discuss it a little bit. I think they actually do vocalize that like, okay, we love each other, but we both realize that we are together because of shared trauma and like that's not healthy. They both recognize that and
Well,
they allude to it in how they feel and how they felt in their relationship.
I mean, it depends what the trauma is. I mean, their trauma is not toxic. Their trauma is a matter of survival and bonding over over the trauma.
Right,
It's
right.
not like they're a relationship in spite of trauma.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I guess it's just like they did have struggles and I was at season 3 or 4 where they were just like not on the same page and they talk about that a little bit. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It is uh sort of hopeful in real life because they're obviously still together. And like I heard rumors that they're engaged. Like they've been together for probably 6 or 7 years at this point. So
I
that's
mean,
the one like silver lining in this is that yes, Nancy and Jonathan are broken up, but Natalia and what's the Charlie are still
Charlie, yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a weird vibe to put off because they're doing all those Discover commercials in all the Netflix ad spots. So it's like, but you're saying they're broken up, but you're seeing them together as a coupley
Yeah.
thing when he's asking for flowers and she's asking for a flamethrower and all these commercials.
They show that every damn commercial break. I'm just like so sick of it. Anyway, let's move on to another relationship in Stranger Things. So um uh Max and Lucas, we'll talk about them. So they were finally reunited after a while, and I forget who it was that said it, but I was kind of not clear on how much time had passed that Max was in a coma. And so I don't know if it's
Coma.
Holly or yeah, I don't know if Holly says it or some other character says it, but she says almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy that Max has been in a coma for almost 2 years. Like I thought it was maybe like 6 months, a year, maybe.
And I don't know if that's their way of trying to play off the uh, Harry Potter effect with the show waiting lasting so long before it got
Mm,
picked up again, or if it's kind of an alternate reality thing. You know how you have like alternate dimensions where time moves faster. So maybe
yeah.
she's only been in the coma for like 8 months or something, but 2 years has progressed in this kind of abyss fairy tale landscape that
Yeah.
Holly's trapped in.
Yeah, it's so I don't know what the reality of that is, but pretty crazy. I do, it was almost comical to me that uh Max and Holly are having this lovely moment, pep talk before she gets back through the portal into the real world. And she's like, you can do it. You can find your way to the real world. You can find your way to your body. And okay, I'm going to go. And they keep talking about it. And like they're crying. It's a beautiful scene, but it's like, I think the whole world was like, hurry up, girlfriend, or the portal's going to close. Like this happened to you one time, like seriously. And we thought that, Lucas may or may not turn off the radio because they were in this situation where they were hiding. So we'll get to that later. But um, yeah, so we're thinking that she's going to miss the opportunity to get through the portal and go into the real world and not be rescued. Like Vecna's going to come out of nowhere and get her. So we're like, come on, girlfriend, like make a run for it. Like this is nice and all, but like this is being dragged out too long. Like just go, please just go. So that was great that she
I
she actually did make it despite that.
I actually had a different thought on that because I didn't think it
Really?
was good. I didn't think it was going to close because the music was still playing, and Robin keeps yelling at Lucas to turn it off. He's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. So I wasn't really worried about it closing because I knew it would stay open as long as Kate Bush was playing. But the thing that kind of irked me is like Max is taking a shot in the dark that Holly can't go with her. And it's like, no, you have to find your own way back. You have to find your own way back. And then later on, it's like, well, it was just kind of a hunch I had, or whatever she said to Lucas and the crew. And it's just like, wait, so you just left this little girl that the entire group has
Mm.
been bending over backwards trying to get back. You just left her in this upside down or alternate abyss, whatever level of this hellscape they were in, just leaving this little girl out there to fend for herself because okay, you're brave and you have courage now. You could take care of yourself and find your own way home. It almost kind of felt a little selfish to me.
Yeah, and I think she does regret it. She's just kind of sitting there and there someone's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, I really hope Holly makes it. Like I can't believe I left her there." Like she
Yeah,
she does she does display some regret for it later, but the good thing is that at least Max was safe. But when she comes into the real world again, and we learned that she wasn't in a coma, she was in a trance this whole time.
yeah.
And Then her vitals come up and she comes back to life again, and she's crying. Lucas is crying. Like that was, I thought that was a great moment between those two actors. I thought that was amazing. The way that like they just had tears pouring out of their eyes. I'm like, man, these kids are good. That's impressive.
Yeah. The touching part to me about Lucas and Max's reunion is the fact that Max spent almost the entirety, if not the entirety of season 4, pushing Lucas away. The whole time, Lucas is like, like he's still kind of got those first crush, cooties over her and
Mm,
whatnot. Like he still has feelings for her, and she's whether it's because she's like spent from the Billy thing, or she feels like she's falling apart from him, or whatever. Like she kind of puts up this boundary that she don't want anything to do with Lucas anymore. So for the trigger of Max realizing how she got back, she didn't need Kate Bush. It was all the connection
mm.
to Lucas and what he was willing to do to make sure she was okay and she could get out of there. It was kind of that. It was kind of very touching for their relationship to come back around in the arc.
Right. And she says that she says something like I realized I didn't need the music all along, like I just needed you. And the amazing thing is that I mean, consider the fact that these kids are in high school, and like how many kids would sit there at the bedside of their like not even like super serious like girlfriend or boyfriend when they're in a coma, and like just be so um uh, unrelenting in their support for someone going through that situation. Like not many kids have the balls or like resolve
Maturity.
to be able to do something like that.
Well, back to our previous point, I think it probably makes it more believable when they have the shared trauma of Vecna wreaking havoc on Hawkins.
True. I guess when there are some when you've seen and you've experienced and you've almost died from like these crazy monsters, I guess that does bond you together
Yeah,
in a weird way.
yeah.
Um Speaking of being bonded together in a weird way, then we had this whole thing with Dustin and Steve and kind of their friendship arc. And basically, through the first part and a little bit of the second part of this season, Dustin's just really acting out and he's very upset about the death of Eddie. And he really is just like struggling to deal with that. And Steve is kind of,
Brush it
not
off.
really being extremely sympathetic. Yeah, brushing off his grief, sort of in some ways. Steve's just kind of like, all right, just like get it together, man. And so
Back
there's
up.
there's this situation in part 2 where they actually are physically fighting. Well, Dustin kind of lashes out at Steve, and Steve's like, come on, let's not fight. He's like trying not to fight him, but Dustin's like trying to push him around. And so they have this whole moment where Steve's like, I'm done, like I'm out of here. So he goes to another floor of the building they're walking around in. And then later he comes back and they have this moment where um Dustin it gets really upset and starts crying because he's like, no, don't go on that ladder to try to save Nancy and Jonathan. Like, you're gonna die if you do that. And he's like, I can't lose you. And he like, freaks out. And so Steve's like, I'm not going anywhere, buddy. And then literally after that whole thing happens, the ladder that Steve was going to climb on like falls down like 5 stories in the building, like down this hole with all the melting goo substance. So he very well would have died if he had gone against what Dustin was saying. So then Steve is a little bit softer with Dustin. He apologizes to him about how he acted about Eddie's death, saying that, Eddie did something stupid. And what he had said earlier is, I think, what made Dustin fight him, frankly,
The
when
Eddie
he
stuff.
said
Yeah.
that. when he said like, oh, Eddie made a stupid decision in doing that, and he risked his life for no reason and blah blah blah, and that really pissed Dustin off, and that's the reason he lunged at him. But so he apologizes for that. He says, no, Eddie saved you, and that was worth it. And so they have this whole like best friend moment, which I love because you can tell that the actors, like I've seen so many little like cute clips of them from the past or currently, and like Gayton and Joe Keery, they really have like a genuine friendship, even though there's a little bit of an age gap. So that was sweet. They had this whole, Dustin is just like, I miss my best friend. And he was like, I missed you too. And so Steve says, you die, I die. And Dustin says it back to him. And that's where they left the situation. So the best friends that you ever could have all over again. So that was a touching moment. And I thought Gayton was amazing in that whole scene, which is conveying being upset and didn't want to lose his friend, and he's just like distraught. And then especially Joe kind of responding to that, being like, wow, like I can't believe I didn't know how you felt.
Well, and it was kind of this, their coming back together was in that moment where they each kind of give each other a little something back. Like
Mm,
Dustin gives Steve the fact that, hey, this idea to do the beanstalk up
yeah,
to the sky to jump through the abyss, that was a great idea. And Steve gives Dustin back. What Eddie did really was heroic. It wasn't him being selfish or being stupid. Like he did save your life, and it kind of, this is between the scene in the upside down with the melting room, and then back to that, it kind of brought me back to like the babysitter dynamic from season one, where like their friendship really started to forge, and now it's not the babysitter thing anymore. It's really more like a true brotherhood. They
right.
recognize the equal value they have to each other's lives.
Right. There obviously there's an age difference and like you're conscious of that, but they are on kind of an equal playing field as far as being friends. And they're not embarrassed to say that they're friends. Like they're just like legit, like you're my brother, you know?
But the age gap, and the age gap kind of works for them because Dustin, he's always in thinking in these about these big, deep, broad subjects about advanced physics and
Mm,
how the upside down works in the scientific method. And Steve, let's face it, he's a little immature. And I
yeah.
think that's the charm. That also is the charm about Steve, to be fair. But there's kind of like a balancing act where Dustin's a little more advanced than his age would be, and Steve's in certain capacities a little more regressed than his age should be. So they're kind of equal in a sense.
Right. And they're like Dustin's intelligence is rubbing off on Steve, who's just like the guy with the hair. And he's like
Yeah,
good looking and he doesn't really have any real value, but Dustin gives him value. And
right.
that's like, the whole thing with the beanstalk. Like whoever would have thought that Steve Harrington would have a good idea. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And in typical Steve Harrington fashion, like it wasn't in this like super deep scientific way. It was Jack and the Beanstalk. Like who hasn't grown up listening to the story of Jack and the Beanstalk?
Yeah, yeah. And I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, yay, Steve, for having that moment. And I thought that was
Yay,
really
Steve.
cool. Yay, Steve. I guess we go from yay Steve to jeers from a lot of people.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are kind of split with this whole thing with Will. So okay, so overall, I mean, in season 5 so far, we've seen a whole lot of crying, and a lot of it is from all characters. Okay, but Will cried especially a lot in these 3 episodes, and I I don't know. It's this whole coming out arc. Obviously the characters respond, and aside from Mike, who kind of doesn't really say anything if I remember correctly, the rest of his friends and everybody else, and of course Will's mom, who is like his mom and his brother are the most supportive. They're like, no, like we're not going to shun you, we're not going to leave you. I mean, no one was really all that surprised, and a lot of people have been pointing out, I've seen that in the first season, Joyce makes some comment about Will and Jonathan's dad and says that their dad used to speak very poorly about Will and say like, oh, he's just a little gay boy, or he's sensitive and he's gay. Like his father used to be like, you're a P word, basically to Will. So like people are pointing that out, saying that like, oh, if you're a fan and you know that that happened in season one, then like obviously this whole him being gay thing is no surprise to anybody.
Who's
And
gonna
like,
remember that?
I don't know, apparently people do remember that, but I mean, it checks out, it makes sense. And the actor is gay in real life, so I mean, why not? um but
I didn't know
yeah, I
that.
don't know. I don't think it was like I guess it did kind of go with the storyline because Will was basically shown the future from Vecna, and Vecna was like getting into his head about it, saying that okay, well, if you tell everyone that you're gay, like they're all gonna disown you and not gonna have anything to do with, like he basically showed him the worst version of what could happen, and Will was like scared of that, so his strategy was like, well, I'm just going to tell them so it doesn't end up like that. And so it wasn't like unrelated at all, like it wasn't out of left field or anything. I did think it was quite dragged out, like it was, you know what I mean, like it was just made a big deal out of, and I don't know if it should have been made a big deal out of.
I honestly I thought it was a little out of left field because to me it's not very believable that this kid who's gone through monster living in his head for like 4, 5, 6 years
Mm.
and constantly being at torture from that and watching his friends go out and be heroes all the time it, it, for what breaks him down to the point where he can't, despite all these powers that he's all of a sudden aware of, the reason why he can't take that next step and contribute to defeating Vecna is because he needs to come out and tell his friends that he's gay is a little unbelievable to me. All this group has been through, like that's not like that should be the least of anyone's worries as far as being able to vanquish this evil.
I think that's what some people's argument was, is like, okay, Vecna's gonna like take over the whole world. Like, why are we worrying about whether you're gay or
Right.
not? You know,
Yeah.
like, and that's, I could see that argument. Like you're basically saying there are bigger fish to fry here. Like, why this? Why does this have to be a whole thing? And I do see that side of it. But at the same time, it's like Netflix is gonna Netflix and they're gonna put this stuff in there, you
And
know?
it's, I mean, and that's another part that's like this show has gone 5 seasons now without really towing the line on the Hollywood diversity, DAI, all that stuff. But they really have not toyed in the waters. They stayed true to the time period it was in, which, right, wrong, or indifferent, that wasn't something that was a talking point in the 80s, at least in a very vocal public sense. So for for Dolphs and them to like just flip the coin on its other side and make this a big pivotal groundbreaking moment in the show's climax is kind of like, huh? Why?
Well, we do have a double dose of it because we have the whole thing with Robin, and that was what, season 2 or 3, when Robin was introduced, and she was like, "Oh, by the way, I don't like you, Steve. I like girls." Like, I mean, so
I
we
didn't
do
have a
kind
problem with that one though. That one I didn't have a
really.
problem with because that kind of occurred before Robin was really involved with the group and the whole Vanquish Vecna thing. So it was, Robin and Steve were just kind of like two teenagers, being teenagers, that sort of thing. And like it kind of felt sad from the audience's perspective because we talked about this before. We thought that this was Steve's way to get over Nancy. He's got Robin
Mm,
here. They have great chemistry. They like each
yeah.
other. So it was kind of like a heartbreak, a heart drop moment for Steve. But that was like before Robin was really involved with the whole evil
Right.
crime fighting thing. So that didn't feel out of place to me when Robin came out.
Yeah, but now it's like I mean, like basically they're like Robin is like Will's mentor who's
Yeah,
like, I'm gonna support you, and like Will credits her for like making him realize who he is and he's more than he thought and all of that. And like that's not a bad thing, but I just yeah, I do like your character is more important, not like
right.
in a show in a TV show, but like
Yeah,
a person's moral compass
moral character. Yeah,
and who a person is more important than like who they sleep with. Like
yeah. Period. End of
overall, like
story.
that's just my like opinion. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I don't have any problem with like Robin being Will's mentor in this, but like it can be more of a subtle thing, like have the representation in kind of this uh offshoot, feel good kind of moment where Will feels comfortable with himself. But for him to feel like he has to tell all of his friends in order to get the monkey off his back,
Yeah.
fight Vecna, and be part of the quest to save Hawkins is unbelievable to me because it's kind of like you said. Everyone was accepting. Of course, they're going to be accepting of it, and they weren't
Right.
surprised. I mean, that's normally how things go. I mean, when a friend could come out to their group of friends and say they're gay, I'm like, I was like, well, yeah, it's usually
Yeah.
kind of how it works.
Really the only one who was surprised was Mike, and he was like, "Oh, okay, I realized that
Yeah.
you like had a crush on me. Okay, I see. Yeah, I understand this now." Like you could see him kind of the wheels turning in his mind, and when everyone came forward and was like, "I support you. Like I'm not leaving you." Like Mike kind of stood back and
Oh,
was
Mike
like,
said it.
"I'm still I don't know.
He
I
said
feel
it.
like he didn't say it.
He did.
He
He
wasn't
definitely
in on
did.
the group. He wasn't in on the group hug.
No, he did. Yeah, he was. He went in.
I don't think he was.
I think he was.
Um, I don't know. I was almost gonna like rewind it because I'm like, I feel like Mike is kind of standoffish in this moment and didn't really say, like, didn't vocalize his support. They're just showing his reaction where he's still like kind of processing it.
Well, Mike is a very aloof person to begin with. I mean, that's been the case throughout the entire show. But
Yeah.
he was definitely in on the vocalization and the group hug and all that.
I'll have to play it back because I'm pretty sure it was only like Dustin, Elle went into the group hug, like the Joyce, Jonathan. There was only like a handful of people. Not everybody got up and like said something.
They were all there, but Mike was there.
Yeah, yeah, he was definitely there. I don't know. I'll have to replay the tape in slow
Wind it
mo.
back.
No. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, we could have talked for 3 hours about everything that happened, but we have to limit ourselves a little bit here. So let's move on to talking about the impending series finale. So we still have this final third part that I believe is over 2 hours for a
Yeah.
runtime. So uh, basically, I just want to do like a temp check. So, what are you thinking of season 5 so far? Now that we're kind of 2/3 through, where are you at right now as far as how satisfied you are, how much you like it or don't like it?
Well, I these 3 episodes, it felt like a lot of story building, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
kind of passive screen. So
Right.
to me, I'm not as excited for the finale as I thought I was going to be because I thought there was going to be a lot of drama, a lot of build up. I'm excited to see if their plan works with the beanstalk theory, but
Mm.
other than that, there really wasn't a lot of action intrigue. There I at the end of at the end of episode 4, or that first clump of episodes, Hopper and Eleven are fighting their way out of the MP's facility in the
Mm-hmm.
Upside Down. So that was very action packed, and I thought we were kind of get more of that. But once they escaped that, there wasn't a lot of that kind of high octane part of it that we were left off with. It was kind of a very neutral, mild atmosphere. Other than I mean, the most intense part I felt like was Jonathan and Nancy and Steve and Dustin trying to fight to get out of there too.
We we did not talk at all about we did get some I wouldn't say questions answered, but we did sort of get some information of where things are going. And I did think that was good, that we're progressing things along now with especially with Elle finding out that, all of them have they basically eight, is it Kali or Callie? I don't know how you pronounce her name.
Callie. Yeah.
Callie. So they're basically now referring to Henry or Vecna as their brother because they found
They're
out
all
that
together.
they all share his blood. So we didn't really talk about all of that, and we'll get into that a little bit more with predictions of where we think the finale is headed. But I did think that this second part progressed more for me. I think I said in the first part that I didn't feel like a whole lot happened. It was sort of a lot of exposition and background just to get things percolating and going.
So
So
opposite of that. So
no,
funny to
so
me.
I think a lot happened in the second part. And yeah, there was a lot of emotional stuff, but we had some things being kind of tied together, which we had Nancy and Jonathan's relationship being brought to an end. We had Max finally being saved and getting back to the real world. So we had some things happening. I think we had more action, not like action as far as like bam, 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 like that kind of action. But the only thing that I was like, where I am right now, two-thirds through, is like, I generally enjoyed it. Like, were there some things I was like cringing at a little bit? Sure. But like, I would say I'm at like a 7 out of 10. Like, I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, but like, there is room to improve, I think. I don't know if it's just like I'm noticing it right now. I don't know if this was a thing in the other seasons, but the dialogue was really corny for me. I don't know what it was, but even with like Max, like Sadie Sink is an amazing actress. If you've seen her in like The Whale with Brendan Fraser, like she's an amazing actress, but some of the dialogue was just like bad, and I don't know what it was, or why I was noticing it all of a sudden. But that being said, while the dialogue was very corny at points, I did think the acting was turned up a notch. Like all these kids crying and acting, they were acting their faces off, and I thought that that was impressive. But yeah, the dialogue, I don't know, it was not it for me.
I didn't find it any more cheesy than it has been in the past because it always kind of had a little bit of 80s corniness to it. Um, but as far as things that you're kind of like a radar goes up, it's like, oh come on. So one of the more exciting scenes of this is when they're escaping the hospital away from the
Yeah.
Demogorgons, and Lucas has Max all bundled up like a little babushka, and Robin's running down with her girlfriend Vicky, and they hide behind this long line of washing machines and dryers, and
Yeah.
the demi dogs they jump out and they're stalking around this room, and I'm watching it. This is literally the kitchen scene from Jurassic Park. Like I don't always notice the copycat stuff. I don't want to go as far as call it plagiarism, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't always notice like the copycat stuff. But like that is so obvious when Lex and Tim are trapped in the kitchen from the Raptors, and they're stalking around and they're jumping up on top of the
Yeah.
equipment and they're sniffing around. Like
Hmm.
it just was almost scene for scene that same moment from Jurassic Park, almost scene for scene.
Yeah, I could see that. In Jurassic Park, were they under a table or what was it?
They were hiding. So the one of the first hiding place and why they kind of turned the heel on the Raptors is they were hiding in like a cabinet at the end of the row, and the Raptors saw Lex's reflection in one of the other cabinets. So
Oh,
they were
right,
at the
right.
end of the row and they were kind of like inside the compartment at the end, trying to pull the she was trying to pull the door down, and the Raptor
Oh,
runs into the
okay.
reflection across from her.
Yeah, so they're at the end of a row and like the demodogs are like kind of like
Yeah.
almost sniffing around like right there. But I did think that was an awesome moment. Like I really thought that they were goners, and I was like, okay,
Hmm.
Lucas is either gonna have to turn off the music or like they're gonna have to do something. Like, but what are they gonna do? And then Mrs. Wheeler, which is unexpected, swoops in with her oxygen tank that she puts in the dryer, which was
Yeah.
like pretty badass and pretty amazing. So that was very unexpected. That was a cool moment for me. That was almost a
She
highlight, I feel.
walks out of the inferno like that fan video on YouTube where cool guys walk away from explosions or whatever it was. She's kind of
Yeah.
like walking out of the inferno like that. And they really like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, it's Karen Wheeler.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean there was some great stuff. Like there were some great moments. And I would say overall that I view it pretty favorably. I'm not like this sucks. I don't know. Like what would you say overall is kind of your temp check?
I'd give it, I'd give it a probably a 7.7. I don't
Okay.
want to say it's as low as a 7.5, but it's not an 8 to me thus far.
Okay. Yeah.
It probably was an 8 coming out of the first 4 episodes, and it dipped down a little bit. Um, so I'm probably looking at a 7.7 right now.
Okay, so we're pretty much on the same page. Like I know that there's a lot of people speaking very negatively about it. So getting onto that, do we think that they're going to wrap up in the finale everything adequately? Do you think we're going to have another Game of Thrones finale situation where people are very upset? So um, I guess overall, I'm seeing these headlines that season 5 is the lowest rated season of the show. And a lot of people are frightful of what's to come. They're thinking it's going to be a train wreck ending. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to be satisfied. That there's going to be a lot of loose ends. And yeah, so people are really some people are not happy right now. I'll just say it.
I haven't noticed an overall score on the season thus far, but I do look at the episode by episode IMDb ranks, and it's hard not to notice that episode 7 was a 6.8. Can't imagine
Mm.
why. Can't imagine why. Um, but I looked back through all the other episodes. The only Stranger Things episode, and this is a show that has a lot of nines, a couple of near perfect scores. The only episode that's that low is that random episode in season 2 when Eleven's out in the Lost Girls segment where she meets Callie and all of them, and it just kind of felt like a sore thumb in the middle of the season. That's the only episode. I think there's one other episode that's maybe a 7, but
Yeah.
that's the only other episode that's in the sixes. The only one across 5 seasons.
Yeah, you know what? I think generally people hate Callie or number 8 as she's referred to. Like
Number 8.
which uh yeah, I don't know if if the Duffer brothers saw that low rating for the season 2 episode back then, but like I don't know if they should have brought her back. If they realized that people had such disdain for her because everybody hates her. Like I ain't seen nobody who's like, oh, I love Callie. She's one of my faves. Never,
No,
never.
well, between that and the Will stuff.
Uh,
Yeah. But the funny part about going forward is, I don't know whether it was a leak or just rumor or someone asking the actors, and they all go like, "Well, I don't know," being sheepish or whatever. But
yeah.
I feel like there was a fake leak that someone was going to die. A beloved character was going to die. And at this point, what I am intrigued going into the finale about
Mm.
is I don't know what direction they're going to go with. I don't know if it's gonna be Hopper going back to his bomb thing where Dustin made this point about Steve's beanstalk theory where we go up and we drop a bomb into the abyss and blow this whole thing to kingdom come. So
Hmm.
I don't know if Hopper's got that in his mind and he's gonna go back to what he tried to do at Dr. K's lab
Right.
where he's going to be the one to do that. I don't know whether it's going to be a Steve and Dustin thing because they're like best friends to the end, do or die, whatever.
Oh
So
God.
like I don't know if it's going to be a Steve and Dustin thing, Steve or Dustin thing. I don't know if that's where they're going to go, or I don't know if it's going to go back to this Callie thing where she's in Eleven's head saying we got to
Mm.
we the only way to do this is if we sacrifice ourselves. Like you said, maybe it's the blood for blood thing with Henry. So like I'm that's probably what I'm most intrigued going into the finale because the sacrifice thing could go in one of a billion different directions.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like we saw that Hopper's been like itching to sacrifice himself. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he's like I'm ready to do this. Like put me in, coach. Like I'll die for the cause. You know,
yeah.
he's all about it. So I could see him trying to do that. Um Also, I could see Steve's plan for the beanstalk actually working. And, that would be the amazing thing is, we talked about how Steve is just a pretty face. He's not a brainiac. So what if his plan actually works? And in combination with the fact that now Max and Will, they really know how Vecna's mind works. So like hopefully with all that knowledge, they will be able to outsmart him. And it seemed to me like a foreshadowing when I think Max was talking to Will and she said, well, underneath it all, he is human. He's scared of
Yeah.
things. I saw this moment that he was scared of. So that might be how they get to him is trying to get to the core of his human self. So I thought that was kind of a foreshadowing. I just don't know how they're going to do that. But you mentioned the thing about Callie getting into Elle's head. And what I think about that is I and everybody else, like, let's be honest, what I've seen, everybody questions Callie's motives.
On
So,
the screen too. In the show itself, they do.
right. So, my prediction is that Elle is like the words kind of echo in Elle's head where she Callie says to her, it's the only way. We have to do this. It's the only way. And my prediction is that Elle is going to realize this is not the only way. And she's going to come up with some other way where Vecna's vanquished, but like I don't know what exactly it's going to be, but she's going to find a way that they can have a happy ending. I just don't know how.
Well, and kind of to that point, I wouldn't be surprised if all the actors just decided we're gonna troll everybody and make it seem like someone's gonna die, and we're gonna wink, wink at the media and all that, and nobody's gonna die. They just want to send people down a rabbit hole, wondering, oh my God, it's gonna be like Game of Thrones. This person dies, that person dies, and they all make it out, hunky dory, happy, sunshine and rainbows, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I wonder too if it wasn't necessarily a leak, but it's just people thinking that like people are worried Steve is going to die. Like I'll be honest, I'm a little worried about Steve and Dustin, and like that would be a heartbreak for me. But I think everyone's just kind of the fact that Game of Thrones again, I'll make a comparison, even though it's not the same show and not the same genre, but people were just like, okay, nobody is safe in that show. And so people are kind of getting a sense of like, okay, nobody is safe in this show either. And they're just worried that their favorite person is going to die. Like, I'll be honest, I thought for a second there, when Vecna got a hold of Max and Holly that he was going to kill Max. He was like a second away from killing Max. I very well thought that Max could have potentially died. And I very well thought that Steve and Nancy, or not Steve and Nancy, Nancy and Jonathan could potentially have died.
And I
Um,
also got that feeling for Will at one point too. Like I thought, and Will's not my favorite character, but I got the same feeling like Vecna was going to kill Will.
yeah, and then it's also in the back of my mind that Millie Bobby Brown and Noah Schnapp were giving an interview, and they had done a bunch of press that day, and I almost said Will. Noah Schnapp said something. The interviewer asked, who is the most misunderstood villain in the show? And he said, Vecna. And Millie Bobby Brown was like elbowing him, like, okay, we can't say any more than that. Shut
Yeah, shut
up.
up, shut up.
Like, yeah, so that's my thing is that we're going to see the human, they're going to be able to get to the human side of Vecna, and that's how this thing is going to all come to a close. Like, will someone die along the way? Possibly. Hopefully it's someone that dies with honor, and also it's hopefully not like everybody's favorite because people will be distraught for weeks, and we can't have that going into 2026. We just can't.
No, and we'll have to retable this and come back and frame it as would you have had the same feeling had you not seen the off camera moments?
I don't know. Or maybe they're just trying to lead us in the wrong direction. Maybe it's all a ruse, like to try to like lead us astray to so that we believe that it's going in this certain direction and they're going
Yeah,
the opposite way. Like maybe no one will die, like you said, you know?
yeah. The Duffer Brothers are pretty good writers, so I'm not super concerned that it'll be done right. And like you said, if there's a beloved character that dies, as long as it's done so in a very honorable, meaningful way, it won't bother me as much as if it was just a meaningless death,
Yeah. I
like an
hate that
Eddie thing.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you enjoyed listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think of each episode. Also, be sure to hit that follow or subscribe button so you know when new episodes release. Of course, next up, we have part 3 of season 5 of Stranger Things. And we'd love to wish our listeners and viewers a happy new year. And yes, we're going to be that person to make that joke. See you next year. Lame,
Hey!
Yeah. Until the next real review, Red and Red signing out.